Before creation itself, there were 6 singularities. Forged into infinity stones.
Hey YouTubers, so the big news is that Thor said that we'd be finding out about the next Infinity Stone, or the final Infinity Stone, very, very soon. So he pretty much confirmed that we're going to see it in Thor Ragnarok, which I think most people believe. The other possibility was Black Panther, so I'll explain all the biggest theories, but the best one right now is that it rests within Mjolnir. It's inside his hammer. And it's just a really fun way for them to twist some of the things that they've already teased in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So there are some things that they set up really early on in the first Thor movie that I'll explain that have since changed, but a lot of times they take old ideas like the Stan Lee cameo and turn it into a big thing in Guardians of the Galaxy. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get everything. There's going to be a ton of Thor dropping really soon because we're about to get Spider-Man. This past weekend, Chris Hemsworth did a convention, which is a pretty rare thing. The big Avengers still do conventions. They charge a buttload of money for their autograph. I think he was charging somewhere around $200. But they've already finished Thor Ragnarok. They've started filming his Infinity War scenes, which is what that funny toy video he posted last week was about. Like, I'm pissed off when people don't include me.
A rave is just rolled in from 3 a.m. He's just a kid. He can fall over. He's not even real. Guns aren't cool, so you can hop off the table.
So people were asking him all kinds of questions about Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, and he was actually pretty good about answering them. So he said a bunch of stuff about Thor Ragnarok. The Soul Gem was just the biggest thing. There are really 3 big places that it could pop up, but the most likely, like I said, I think is Thor's hammer, just because Hela destroys it so early in the movie. And if you're a big Joss Whedon fan, there's the idea of the bad of a series, like the villain, then the big bad. So you have a villain like Hela who's really bad, but then she gains a secret power that makes her the ultimate villain, like the big bad. So when Chris Hemsworth teases that they're giving Asgard a makeover, that's the word that he used. It's kind of funny. It's basically getting wiped off the planet right here. This is not something that Hela would be able to do all by herself because she's been in captivity based on the explanation of the movie. Like, she breaks out because Loki has been such a shitty king while Thor's been off doing his own thing. I'll explain their relationship in a second too. He said some funny things about what's going on with Thor and Loki in the movie. Basically, movie Hela, who's a little bit different from comic book Hela, breaks out of prison that Odin's had her in this whole time. In seeking revenge, she just wants to wipe them out of existence. So that's the whole idea of Ragnarok. Ragnarok is a much bigger Jack Kirby concept from the comics, but if you're a longtime Thor fan, they've destroyed Asgard several times in the comics in the last 20 years or so. They've done just about everything. So that was the idea with Thor Ragnarok, is that Chris Hemsworth and Taika Waititi and Kevin Feige just weren't really happy with the direction the Thor character was going. So they picked that idea, Ragnarok, is a way to soft reboot the Thor franchise, and the best way to do that is to just wipe it right off the map so you can literally rebuild it. And unless they just mysteriously got Galactus and didn't tell us, Kevin Feige did confirm that there's no Fantastic Four coming anytime soon. That requires the power of an Infinity Gem, and what better place to let one pop up than in a movie where you have the most powerful Avengers battling to the death in the arena. So you see the Thor intro where he says, "You wonder how I got here." Well, it's a long story, and then they flash to Earth in the alleyway where Hela is breaking his hammer apart using her power. So the destruction of Asgard is sort of like the tee-up for what they could do with the Infinity Gems. Like, oh my god, if they were able to destroy Asgard, then we are really screwed. There are a lot of competing theories, but the idea of a gem being housed inside an object has been ingrained in the MCU. So here's the original quote. "Before creation itself, there were 6 singularities. Then the universe exploded into existence, and the remnants of these systems were forged into concentrated ingots, Infinity Stones. These stones, it seems, can only be brandished by beings of extraordinary strength."
Typical of humans. They scratch the surface and never think to look within.
So even when the Infinity Gems are housed inside an object like Loki's scepter, they can still only be wielded by beings of great power. The reason that Star-Lord was able to hold on to the raw power gem for a brief period of time is only because he's half celestial, so literally has DNA from the most powerful beings in the universe, and that's since gone away. They depowered him. Then there's a really important Doctor Strange scene where Mordo explains why it is that they house these powerful objects inside other objects. We just don't have the ability to contain these magics, so we need to bind them to something else.
This is a relic. Some magic is too powerful to sustain, so we imbue objects with it, allowing them to take the strain we cannot.
I know a lot of you are upset that we're not going to see Adam Warlock until Guardians 3. He's not even going to be part of Infinity War. He was the holder of the Soul Gem. He was literally inside the Soul Gem in the comics. But in the funny way that they twist comic book canon for the movies, the idea of Thor's enchantment on his hammer, how does the hammer know who's worthy if it were not alive itself? So they did something really cool in the comics last year where they explain that Thor's hammer is alive. It does have a soul inside of it. The comic book version is a little bit different, but you can see how it'd be really easy to use this for the movie. And I know a lot of you are saying, what about Heimdall though? He might have the soul gem. I'll explain that next because it's a really good competing theory. But during the Thor comic last year, you learned that Odin bound this celestial storm god to Thor's hammer and had it forged out of Uru metal. So it's Uru metal plus celestial storm god, and that's how you get your living hammer that decides who's worthy. It literally decides, like, hey, you're an asshole, you don't get to pick me up, you're awesome, let's rock. It also explains why the hammer has so many special abilities. The ability to call down lightning, because it's literally a storm itself inside the hammer, and why he can send the hammer away. Like, he can literally say, hammer, go away, and it'll just fly off into the distance. It also explains why Odin hasn't been wielding it, because why wouldn't the most powerful person on Asgard wield the most powerful weapon? So Stan Lee cameo, theory of all cameo style, Marvel does funny things like that where they take really big ideas from the comics and do something funny with it that helps broaden the mythology. Like as of right now, Thor's hammer is just really special. There's an enchantment by Odin on it. You know that it can call down storms. You've seen the things they can do in the comics. The second Heimdall theory is also really good too, because it also explains some of his crazy powerful abilities. He's one of the most powerful people on Asgard too. He stands there on the Rainbow Bridge and he can see pretty much anything that you ask him to see in the multiverse. They do a better job of it in the comics where you see the galaxy in his eyes where it's like, oh my god, it's like the entire universe contained inside his head. He can pinpoint anything, anyone, so the idea that he could pick out souls is a fun way of explaining that he might have the soul gem that gives him that broad ability. But I know a lot of you still want to hold out for Black Panther. The thing about Black Panther, it could totally be inside the heart tree where the heart-shaped herb grows that Black Panther takes. It's inside the necropolis. It's a very cool concept because they get into the Dajalia, sort of the spirit plane. So there's a lot of soul-related things and spirituality in Black Panther. They have the vibranium. So I feel like it's already special enough. That would be reason enough for Thanos to want to attack Wakanda during Infinity War. And that's assuming that they don't take one of the Infinity Gems that they already have and hide it in Wakanda. So that's also a possibility too. But there were a lot of people wondering recently because they showed some behind the scenes of Wakanda. I even did a video for it because Hulk is there. So it's like, what are the Avengers doing in Wakanda that's so important? Why would Thanos come for them? Probably because they have an Infinity Gem with them. And at this big convention, Chris Hemsworth did tease some of the Infinity War villains, so I might do a separate video about that. He was talking about Black Order, but there will be villains from each other's movies, so if you're holding out hope for Red Skull to return in Infinity War, it's always possible, but they haven't said anything about him coming back. So let me know in the comments, what's your best Soul Gem theory? I know there's all this talk about Spider-Man, Venom, MCU. I'll link that video at the end of this, but they also tease multiple Spider-Man post-credit scenes, so I'll be doing a video for that. I also have some American Gods finale to post, but leave all your requests for Marvel videos in the comments below. But congratulations to the latest giveaway winner, The Atlas Plays. Please private message me so I can get your contact details. While you wait for everything, click here for that funny Venom MCU teaser, and click here for brand new Game of Thrones. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.